Hey everyone, welcome to this webinar on how to solve 7 level quant questions in 2 minutes. My name is Saqib and I'm going to be a host today. A little bit about me. I am the lead product manager at GMAT, and I've been in this test prep industry for about close to 10 years now. I love teaching quant and I like building good products which can help students ace GMAT, okay, or any exam as such. Okay, so I'm going to start off this session. But before doing that, can you please let me know those of you there that if I'm being audible, if I am my voice is perfectly clear. If you can just put it in the chat, that would be great, and then I can start off with the session. Okay, so I can see that you all can hear me. Audio is perfect. That's really good to see that. Okay, so let me very quickly share my screen, and once I do that, I would start off the session. Okay, great. Let me talk about this webinar. What am I going to do in this? Okay, so the first thing, obviously, in this webinar is that I am going to talk about, obviously, the main part, which is what do you do to solve 700 level questions in 2 minutes? Okay, that I would take about 60 to 70 minutes, where I'll be using various examples, various questions, to tell you what are you actually missing in them. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is after the main part, I'm going to spend about 10 to 15 minutes in general to discuss any questions that you may have even after the session. If you still feel that, hey, I still need some more guidance, or if you want to know in general more about GMAT strategy and all, feel free to ask those questions during the Q&A session. Okay, so I'm going to get started. And I'm going to first of all ask you a very simple question. And this is a question which everybody asks me, so I want to ask you this time. What do you think? What is the main reason because of which, okay, students falter in quant questions? They get it wrong, they're not able to solve it properly. What do you think? What is the reason behind it? Why are they not able to solve questions? Be it a 650 level or a 700 level, does not matter. But as long as the question is there, they falter in it. What could be the reason behind it? Anyone? What do you think could be the reason that students are not able to do well? Okay, I can see somebody's writing time pressure. Okay, no scratch pad in online exam. Okay, but that's something which has come now. Okay, language is in PS, wrong approach, not strong in basics, mostly time management, silly mistakes. Okay, so I've almost got all the answers that I was looking for. Okay, I want to summarize this. All the things that you're saying are absolutely correct. Okay, and I want to summarize all these things into 3 main points, which I feel there are other reasons, obviously, but what do I feel is the reason because of which students falter in the exam? Okay, the first and the foremost reason, and again, this might seem really very obvious, is the lack of conceptual clarity. Okay, now it's very obvious, right, that if you don't know any concept or if you don't know how to apply the concept properly, and the second part is more important, how to apply it, then there's a very high chance that you will not be able to solve the question properly. Okay, right? Because you don't know what to do with it. Even if you know the formula, you don't know how to apply it, right? That's the number one thing. Let's talk about number two. The other thing which I feel is, and I think a lot of people talked about it, said it, is that not reading the question stem properly because maybe the question is quite big or you don't have enough time, right? Because of which you are reading, you're in a rush. You read those questions very quickly, and sometimes you maybe even not understand what may be the significance of a certain thing that is mentioned in the question. Like, for example, if it's given that x is a positive integer and there's a rest of the question that is given, what is the significance of x is a positive integer? Does it really play a big role or it's just there? So a lot of people just ignore those fluff and they focus on the main part, because of which they falter in the question. Okay, and I think that a major chunk of people, even if they know the concept really well, are falling for this, and because of which their scores are maybe not reaching a 49 or a 50, they are struggling by between 46, 47. Third is something which a lot of you have talked about, is timing. Now, a lot of you are saying that, hey, we don't have enough time, or we take a lot of time to solve the question. And these are things which also causes nervousness because you're focusing on improving your time a lot. And this doesn't go for only quant, but it goes for verbal also, right? You all want to solve questions within 2 minutes. You want to solve all SC questions in 1.5 minutes, right? All quant questions within 2 minutes. And that's the reason you're here today, because you want to know, how can I solve a question within 2 minutes? So you focus too much on the time. And I believe that you should not do that, at least not when you are in the initial phase of your preparation, when you're actually learning and learning to apply these new concepts. Okay, so now that we have understood why do people falter in the quant questions, I'm sure you agree to all these things. These are the major things, apart from silly mistakes. Obviously, people do end up making silly mistakes. But how do I ensure? How do you ensure that now that you know that these are the three problems, how do you ensure that you get questions correct? And I'm talking in general. Okay, it could be a 700 level question, it could be a 600 level question, it could be any very easy question. How do you get it correct without making a mistake? And again, the first thing that I'm going to state is a very obvious thing. Okay, and I'm sure you are all aware of it, that you have to improve your conceptual knowledge. A lot of people come and tell me, hey, can I leave permutation combination? Hey, can I leave, say, geometry? I don't like geometry. I don't like diagrams. Can I leave that? Okay. And what I tell them is that don't do that. Uh, why should you not do that? Whatever you are targeting, okay, keep this in mind, be it a Q50 or a Q46 or a Q43, doesn't matter. What really matters is that if you get an easy question, okay, easy question of any type, your task should be able to answer it. Okay, and I'm talking in general, right? Easy question, difficult question. But if you're targeting a low score also, you need to get a easy PNC question correct. You need to get an easy geometry question correct. So at the basic, at the very most, you should know all the basics of all the concepts that are there, be it number properties, word problem, geometry, algebra, anything. Make sure that you at least know the formulas so that if you come across an easy question, you get them correct. Okay, if you don't know this, obviously whatever happens, you'll never get the correct answer, right? Now let's talk about number two. And this is what differentiates a student who is at a Q46 and who is a student as a Q50 or a Q49. How well are you reading the question properly and applying whatever is given in the question? So I told you, gave you an example, right? Where I said, if it's given x is a positive integer, what do you do with it? Whether are you able to infer what does that mean? It means that x should start from 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth, right? If you're given a constraint, are you able to apply that constraint properly to solve the question? If it's a big question, long question, somebody mentioned, right? So after reading that very long word problem question, do you have the ability or the skill to convert those things that are mentioned in information in the question in the form of an equation or not? If you lack any of these skills, even if you know the formulas, even if you know all the concepts, you will still falter. Okay, so it's important, you need to know how to apply these concepts. And I can give you another example, which actually comes in my mind. All of you must have studied, if you're preparing for GMAT, you must have come across prime numbers, right? And you must have studied, say, the total factors formula, right? Total factors of a prime number. It's a formula like a plus 1, b plus 1 times b plus 1, blah, 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 blah. Now you know the formula. So if you get a direct question on that, you'll be able to apply the formula, get the answer. But the moment I change the question, I give you the total factors and I tell you, hey, tell me what could be the number of prime numbers or what could be the possible value of the number. That is where most people falter, because they know the formula, but they don't really know how to apply it. Okay, so if you're looking to solve 700 plus level questions, 650 level also, it's very important that you know and understand how to solve these questions correctly. And the last point is, please read, please don't worry about time. Understand this, and I'm guaranteeing you this, that you can solve any GMAT question if within 2 minutes, if you read slowly, properly, and even if you do not apply any shortcuts, you'll still be able to solve most of the questions, about 80 to 80% of the questions on the exam, by just following the steps methodically. Okay, so according to me, these things are really important. And if you're able to fix these three things, not worrying about time so that you are not under a mental pressure of doing well. Okay, that's number one. Having the right conceptual knowledge in place so that you're able to solve questions easily, understand what formulas to apply, and then sharpening your application skills So that, and it applies to anything. Somebody's asking, does this apply to long word problems too? Yes, it does. Whether it be a long word problem question or a short word question, whenever you're worrying, if you worry about time, then you'll have to reread the question again. Please understand that if you read it in a rush, there's a chance that you might miss something. If you miss something, then you'll have to go back to the question again. And because of this to and fro, what happens is that you end up wasting more time. And if you read it only once, even if you take 45 seconds to read it, and you have all the information that is needed in the question properly, okay, in one place, then you won't have to go again and again. And that means you're just focusing on now on solving the question. Okay. And solving the question usually take 1.5 minutes at the max. So you'll still be able to do it within 2 minutes or at the max 2 minutes, 15 seconds if it's a difficult question, but it won't go beyond that. Okay. Now, see, I've been saying this, and obviously what happens is this is being said by a lot of experts, but what happens is people usually don't believe it or they don't apply it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some questions. Some of them are easy, some of them are slightly difficult. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you whatever I've told you now, that people don't read properly, people don't apply properly, people might know the concept, and yet they are not being able to solve the question correctly. Okay, so I'm going to take just 8 questions. Okay, and I'll try to discuss all 8 depending on how much time we have. I'll at least do as much as possible. And in each and every question, there is some learning or the other, which if you keep in your mind, believe me, you'll see a lot of change in the way you solve questions, a lot of improvement in your accuracy also. Somebody's asking, how long is this live session? The session is going to be about, say, 80 minutes at the max. It should not exceed more than that, 70 to 80 minutes. Okay. So 8 questions. And while doing so, I can understand a few of you might be here who might have not done any, who might just be in the initial phase of the preparation. So they might not know certain concepts. So I have tried to keep a balance of both, teaching you certain concepts at certain places, telling you why these concepts can help you solve questions quickly. And at the same time, I've tried to show you where are you making mistakes, how to avoid such mistakes. Okay. And believe me, this is where it will differentiate people between whether 49 or 51. How well are you able to identify and avoid mistakes? Okay. Now, this is how I'm going to conduct the question and answer session. And this is how I ideally want it. It's totally up to you how to go about it. That I'll show a question on the screen. Okay. And I'll give you about 2.5 minutes to solve it. Okay. So when you're solving the question, you might get an answer, but I would request you not to post it on the chat yet. Okay. After 2.5 minutes, I'll tell you, hey, the time's up. The moment I tell you the time's up, then you post your answer. The reason for this request is because I don't want people to get biased by the answers. Okay. So if somebody does it, say in under 30 seconds, there might be some of you might be really good in quant. Okay. So you might be able to do it very quickly and you might post your answer and somebody might get biased by it. I don't want that to happen, especially in DS questions. People are thinking about C and E, you post C, they might again start thinking in that direction. I want everyone to try things on their own. So you see the question, solve it. The moment I say time's up, start posting your answers. I'll give you about 20 seconds to post all your answers, and then I'll discuss how to solve the question and what are the possible mistakes that you might have made in that question. Okay. So if this is perfectly clear, kindly just say yes or something like that, acknowledge, and that would be great. Sahil, I will be talking about certain short techniques, but believe me, uh, only short techniques is not important. Okay, you need to, as I told you, conceptual clarity is important. If you have the concepts properly, if you know these concepts really well, believe me, you will be able to solve all the questions properly. But there are certain shortcuts, certain things that I've covered in this PPT, which will help you solve certain things very quickly. Okay, so let's go, guys. Let's not waste more time now. So here's the first question on the screen. I think it's a medium difficulty level of question. Um, so your time starts now, and once it's 2.5 minutes, I'll let you know. Then you can post your responses. All the best, guys. Okay, guys, you can start posting your answers. Okay, I can see a D, Daksh is saying D, Ayush D. I can see some C's, Abhishek, Nirav, Arun, they are all saying C, Esanul C. Okay. As expected, I expected a few C's and I expected a few D's. I'll be very frank here. Um, and this is again not a very difficult question. It's about 650 level, 600 level question. But the reason it becomes tough for a few people is because, as I told you, they do not read properly or they are not making the right inferences. Okay, so now let me tell you what's the problem here. Why is the and what is the correct answer here? Okay. So what I really do is, and this is my process, I'm telling you, this is the way I do it. As I told you, I jot down everything properly. So I, first of all, write down whatever is given in the question. So it's given that Q is greater than P. That's the first thing. I also know that P is greater than -5. And I also know that Q is less than 10. So I'll write down in my piece of paper these three things so that I don't have to go back to the question again. Okay. Now, with this information given, can you tell me, those of you who have answered, what will be the answer of this question? What can you tell me about the nature of P and Q? What is it? Is it an integer? Is it a fraction decimal? Or is it a real number? What kind of a number is P and Q? Anyone? Odd integral is not in the option. I'm talking about the nature of P and Q. What kind of numbers are these? Are they integers, P and Q? Or are they real numbers? Okay, I can see some real numbers. A few of you are saying integers. Jeet is saying not given, which is good. Yeah, it's not given. But it's not given. So what happens if it's not given? Okay, so if it's not given, please keep in mind, and it's very important, that if nothing is given about the variables, in GMAT, we simply assume them to be real numbers. Okay, so those of you who are thinking that it's an integer, or those of you who are thinking that it's only a fraction decimal, you're falling for the trap, because you're missing one of the most fundamental things, is that if nothing is given in the question, you simply need to assume it to be real numbers. The mistake that we usually make is that we inherently think that if nothing is given, they are integers. That's a mistake that a lot of people make. Okay, so if it's nothing given, make a note of it, that if nothing is given of the variables, those variables should be considered as real numbers. Now, this is an important thing that you need to keep in mind. If you don't keep this in mind, you'll make a mistake. Another reason for people thinking that it's an integer is because of what is given in the question, right? They think, okay, I'm being asked about the greatest possible odd integral values. So if it's an integral value, P and Q would be integer. Don't think like that. Okay, always keep in mind, go with an open mind and think, okay, if they are real numbers, they could be integers and they could be decimals, also fractions. Okay, so what you need to ask yourself is, okay, if they are integers, it's very clear, I'll know what to do. But can I get an odd number, because I'm being asked about the odd number? Okay, can I get an odd number by adding two decimal numbers? Okay, and if you're unsure, you need to very quickly check. Take any real number, just check it. Okay, whether you're getting an odd number or not. And as you can see, you can add two decimals and still get an odd number. Okay, now if you don't keep this in mind, if you still think, a few people who are still saying integers, please keep this in mind. It's not an integer, it is a real number. And even adding two real numbers like P and Q, you can still get an odd number. Okay, now we are looking for the greatest odd number. That's a separate story. So now we'll move to the step 3. Now we know what is given. Now we know what kind of nature is of P and Q. What we are going to do is, now we are going to think, okay, if P is greater than -5, okay, so P can take any value. It can be integers like -4, -2. It could be decimals like -2.88, and so on. It could be positive values also, right? If Q is less than 10, then obviously Q can take values like 9.999, 9.8. It can take negative values also, and it can go on, okay, in the other direction, as you can see. Now we know they are integers. We know they could be integers, they could be fractions. We have drawn everything, we have written everything. But is the analysis complete? Are we missing anything? Have we taken everything into account while solving this question? Or is there something that we need to still take care of? Is there anything that is there any information that we haven't used yet? Anyone? Okay, there's one information, Abhishek, that we haven't used yet is that Q is greater than P. There's one information that we haven't used. And we can write it as Q is greater than P, or we can say P is less than Q. Now, think about it. P is less than Q, and Q is less than 10. Q is less than 10, and P is less than Q. So we can obviously say that the P will also be less than 10, right? It has to be because it's less than Q. So if P is less than Q, so P also will be less than 10. Q automatically is less than 10. So in one way, we can say that P plus Q would be less than 20. Okay. Now, if P plus Q is less than 20 and there are some real numbers, that means that the greatest odd integral value would be 19. Yes, the final answer has to be an integer. And that's why I've given an example here. As you can see, if you take two real numbers like these, like 9.4, 9.6, Abhishek is saying 9.9, 9.1, someone else also gave the same number, right? So we can use that information to figure out that the answer would be 19. Right? And see, I knew what kind of mistake you would make, right? And this is how GMAT will also knows this, that you'll make certain incorrect assumption. Now, those of you marked 17, what mistake did you make? You looked at Q is less than 10. You thought, okay, less than 10, I'm looking for a positive, greatest positive integral value. So Q has to be 9 only. Okay, assuming Q is an integer. Same goes for P. P is greater than minus 5. And since P is less than Q, you must have thought, okay, P could be 8, 7, 6. But I'm looking for the greatest possible value. So let me take 9 and 8. Yeah, it's very hard to believe, but this is a 7-level question. And look at the number of people who've got it incorrect. So it depends. It's not those who know the concept really well, they'll be able to solve it very quickly. But these kind of questions, people do end up making a mistake, right? About 50% of you will end up marking still the answer as C, which is incorrect. So the learning and takeaway here is that if you mark C, and this is the way I process things, that if you mark C as the answer, if you mark 17 as the answer, you were able to apply the constraint concept, but you were not able to do the analysis properly. You did not make the right inferences. Thankfully, nobody said ABE, because if you said ABE, then your answer would not have been, your conceptual knowledge would have also been weak. Those who have marked D have actually done everything correctly. So the main takeaway from this question, guys, is that avoid making incorrect assumptions. Okay, and this is a very common mistake that people make. If they see variables, they assume it to be integers. Don't do that unless and until it is properly mentioned. Okay, if it's mentioned, then only do it. So that's the main takeaway from here. Read carefully, make the right inferences. Okay. Now, let's look at the next question. Once again, the idea here is to take 2.5 minutes, solve the question. Don't post the answer yet. Once I tell you the time is over, then post the answer. And try to read carefully and make the right inferences. I'm sure you will be able to solve this correctly. Okay. So all the best, guys. Okay, guys, you can start posting your answers if you are done with the question. Okay, I can see a lot of A's. A few of them have mentioned the answer as E. Okay. Some of you are saying D. Okay, I have all kind of things. But mostly what I can see here is that a lot of you are saying A and E. I saw very few C's. I could see only two C's. Okay. And D also, D and A. Aman, wherever you have seen numbers are taken as integers, it will be mentioned very clearly that they are integers. Okay, if it's not mentioned, you cannot just take it. There has to be something would be given there to help you understand that it's an integer. Okay, so what I can see is people are marking A. Some of you have marked C, and I have a few E's also. Once again, those of you, the question was created keeping in mind the A trap, guys. I created this question knowing that a lot of you, if you by chance not read the statement one properly, might end up thinking that statement one is sufficient. And let me just show you why it is not. Once again, I'll write down what is given. Here, very few information is given. It's given that p is a positive integer. It is greater than 1. And we need to find out whether p is a factor of 108 or not. Okay, simple. Now, let me ask you a simple question because a lot of you might not become aware of this. But what do we mean by factors? Are factors numbers that divide 108, or factors are numbers which are divisible by 108? Which one of them is correct? Is it A or is it B? What are factors? Come on, guys, very quickly. Factors are numbers that will divide 108, right? So that's the basic thing that you should be aware of. If not, then you might face some problems. Okay. Now, what you do is, and this is again optional, but what you ideally should do is that you should, if you want, you should prime factorize 108. And the next part is that if you're really good with calculations, you may jot down the factors. Okay, this is not necessary. I've written it down, but even if you don't write it, it's okay as long as you know what 108 is composed of, like 3 cubed times 2 to the 2 square. If that is clear, that's enough. Now, I've written down all the factors, but keep this in mind that p is a positive integer which is greater than 1. So let me use my pen here. It's greater than 1 here, right? So that means p can be any value except 1. The question is asking that if p is a factor of 108, then p can take any of these values. Okay, that's the inference that you should be able to make. Okay, now let's come to the first statement which everyone marked as A. Okay, p is divisible by all the factors of 27. Now, what are the factors of 27 by which it will be divisible? So p will be divisible by 1, 3, 9, 27, right? Because these are the factors of 27. But read this very carefully. It's saying that p is divisible by these numbers. Okay, it's not saying that p is one of the factors of 27. There's a difference between these two things. P is not one of the factors. P is divisible by these numbers. So we can say that if you're thinking that whether p is 27 or not, and that is what most of you thought and marked the answer as A, you're falling for the trap. What is a trap here? Understand that if p is divisible by all the factors, all that means is that p is 27 times something. So think about it in this way: p is divisible by 27. All the factors 1, 3. I'm just taking one random example, but so we can say that p by 27 should be an integer, or in short, we can say that p is 27k. Okay, where k is any integer. K is any integer, right? Now, if k is 1, then in that case, obviously p would be 27, which is a factor of 108. But if k is 3, then p would turn out to be 81. And notice this, that 81 is not a factor of 108, but it is still satisfying all the conditions that is given in the statement. Please keep this in mind, right? So the mistake that you made was once you read the statement, you did not comprehend this properly. You did not infer properly what exactly they're talking about. They're talking about a number which is divisible by these factors. They are not saying that p is one of these factors. Yes, exactly, Abhishek. Not necessarily it can be a factor. It could be, as shown in one case, but it could not be. That is why this statement is not sufficient, guys. I hope it's clear where you fell for the trap. You did not read this portion properly. Divisible by all the factors. This is important. It's not the factors, not necessarily a factors. Okay. Second statement obviously is relatively easy. If 110 is divisible by p plus 1, 110 is very easily prime factor. You can easily prime factorize 110. And the factors are also very easy to write down. In this case, I would say you simply write down if you want to. So obviously these values, again, don't make a mistake. Some of you might make this mistake of thinking that these are the values of P. No, don't make that mistake. Keep in mind that 110 is divisible by P plus 1. So these values are for P plus 1. Okay? Now again, I can take two cases. Like if I take P plus 10 is P plus 1 is 10, say. Okay, if P plus 1 is 10, then P is 9, which is a factor of 108. Okay, but it's quite possible that P plus 1 could be 11 also. In that case, it's not a factor of 108. That means even statement 2 is not sufficient because you won't be able to find out the answer. Okay, so statement 2 is also not sufficient. I can understand it's sometimes frustrating about number properties, but that's what I'm trying to show you here, that you have to be very careful while reading it. Okay, make sure that you read it properly. If you read it properly, the chances of making a mistake would be less. When you combine both these statements, things becomes a bit easy. P is 27 times K, and these are the possible values of P, P plus 1. So if P plus 1 can be any of these possible values, the value of P can be only these. Keep this in mind that P plus 1 cannot be equal to 1 because that would give you P is equal to 0. So those of you who ended up marking B as the answer, you did not pay attention to the fact that P is greater than 1. Okay. So P cannot be 0 and P cannot be equal to P plus 1 cannot be 2 also, because then that would give P is equal to 1. Even that is not possible. So from statement 2, you can come to the conclusion that these are the possible values of P. And from statement 1, you already know that P is 27 times something. And out of all these options, only one of the option, which is 54, is 27 times something. So this is the only common value possible. Hence, the correct answer in this case is option C. Some of you said option C is very good, but I hope now it's very clear, those of you especially who marked answer A or E, because these were the two most common mistakes I was expecting people to make. Why you made that mistake. Number one is, as I emphasized in the starting of this session, that if you don't read properly, you will make a mistake. Even if you know the concept, you knew what factors are, yet you made a mistake. Okay, Sahil, the optimal time should be, again, ideally, if you could really well with this, you should be able to do it in 2 minutes. You should be able to see. If you look at these steps, there aren't many steps. Notice it's just a 2-line step here. Most of the steps that are used here are just 2-line things. The only thing is whether you are good at application skills, whether you're able to infer quickly or not, whether you're able to think like that or not. If not, then you need to practice more. That's all. Those of you who marked the answer as A, well, your concepts are still in place, but you're not reading properly, you're not analyzing properly. B, D, E, people who are marking, you need to work on your concepts as well, because if your concepts were in place, you should have at least ended up marking A if nothing else. Okay. Those of you marked C, obviously have everything in place. So again, final takeaway, guys, here is that please read carefully to avoid unnecessary mistakes. This is very important, because if you have to go again and again, then to the statements, then you will waste time. You have to save time, and you can save time by doing the thing that you're doing only once. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it helps you understand why it's reading properly and analyzing properly is important. Okay, now I have certain questions which require both. The third question that I'm giving you here, it requires both conceptual knowledge as well as a strong conceptual knowledge, in fact, because you're asking for 7-level questions, a strong conceptual knowledge as well as a good understanding of these application skills. If you don't have good application skills, this you would find this stuff. Okay, so once again, I'll give you 2.5 minutes, guys. All the best. Try it out. Once you're done with with the question, 2.5 minutes have passed. I'll let you know. Then post your answers, guys. Okay. And yes, guys, the questions that I'm discussing are all 700 level. If you're able to do it quickly, well and good. But these are all 700 level. Guys, just wait a bit before posting the answer. People, still have 30 seconds, and then start posting answers. Please wait, guys. Just a request. Those of you who have done it, well and good, but kindly wait another 30 seconds. And those who haven't done it, that's totally okay. We'll get to learn something new here. Daksh, that's absolutely fine. Uh, just 10 seconds more, guys. And then please start posting your answers. That's totally okay, Kalyan. I just wanted to let you know. That's fine. Okay, guys. I would say it's time to post answers. I'm deliberately giving you just 2.5 minutes. I know some of you might need more, but that's the point here. I just want to show you that you can do it in 2 minutes. So, guys, if you're done, post answers quickly. Ayush, I want to point one thing out here. Things become easy if you know how to do it. No question is difficult as long as you know how to do it. Okay. Okay, I can see D's. I can see a few B's and C's. I'm happy that I'm seeing the correct answer a lot here, which is very good. Sahil says D, Swapnil D, Apurv B. Okay, so again, out here, guys, the trap, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to just try and guess also what kind of answer that you'll mark before actually asking you to post it. But yes, in this question, most of you might end up marking either B, or if you're not very good with the concepts of equations, you may even end up marking E. But D and B is the most commonly marked answers in this question. Now, let me tell you how to solve such questions, and very methodically. It's not that you have this is a one-off question or anything like that. No, this is a question where especially in algebra, where people struggle mostly is how to simplify these kind of equations. They don't know what to do. It looks really complex. Okay, now what I basically tell them is that if you have equations like this, don't worry. Okay, whenever you see an x square, and in GMAT, believe me, they don't change a lot of things. Okay, so if you see a square, if you see a quadratic equation, what you really need to try and do is try and express whatever expression that is given to you in the form of ax square plus bx plus c. Try and do that somehow. Okay, so if you're given 6x squared minus kx plus k plus 30 is equal to 33 minus 5x, just make sure that you write it in this form. And how can you do it? Well, bring everything to one side first. Bring everything to one side. Okay, and then what you do is you club things. So you want ax squared. So this is 6x squared. You want the x's together. So take all the x's together. You want a constant. So take the constants together. Okay, now if you do that, what will happen is you'll get an expression like this. Okay, it's important. Now see how a complicated looking expression now has been reduced to something which is very easily readable for you and understandable. Now what you can do is you can compare it with this equation. Compare this and you can say, okay, A is now 6, B is now 5 minus K, and C is now K minus 33. Now you know this. Okay, now you know ABC. Now, why is this important? This is important because you're looking for the product of roots in this question, right? So if you're looking for product of roots, you should know that product of roots is given by C by A, right? And now you can see very clearly C by A is nothing but K minus 33 by 6. Okay, I'll show you. Daksh, I'm not using anything. I'm just using each individual statement to solve the question. Okay, so understand this. If you do this, a complicated looking question has now become really easy. Now we just need to figure out. We know that we just need to figure out that we need the value of K. That's all. So please keep this in mind. It's a learning for all of you are doing quadratic equation. Those of you know well and good, but those of you don't, most of the equations which look complex, try and reduce it to this form. Find ABC, and then whatever is asked, try and evaluate that. So in this case, I need K to find C by A. Now here's a very interesting learning out here, guys. The first statement, which again stumps a lot of students. They don't know what to do with it. X minus 3 is one of the factors. What do you mean by this? Okay, now let me explain. Whenever you have an expression like ax squared plus bx plus c, okay, this can be broken down into two parts, right? Like when you're finding the roots, x minus p times x minus q. Okay. Now, when you have this, these x minus p, x minus q, they are when you equate it to 0, you get their roots, right? P and q get the roots or solutions. But this x minus p and x minus q individually, they are known as the factors of the equation. Why do you know factors? Because if I divide them, it will get completely divided. Okay, I'm not going into too much detail, but the main crux that you need to understand here is that once you write it in this form, each part is known as a factor. of the equation. Now you might ask me, what is the significance? Okay, fine, I've learned its factors. Now what? So I want to help you explain, understand this with an example so that it gets in your mind really properly. Take this equation, right? X squared minus 6x plus 8, and you get this, right? If you break it down. The roots are 2 and 4, okay? If the roots are 2 and 4, okay, if you take the root 2 and put it in this equation, substitute it, you'll get the value as 0. Same goes for this other root. If you put 4 in this equation, you get the value as 0. I hope this part is clear, okay? So what does that mean? If the question is saying x minus 3 is a factor, they're talking about one of these parts. They're talking about this small thing. X minus 3 is a factor. So this is basically giving you a root of the equation. Okay, this is telling you that x equal to 3 is a root. Okay, now once you know its root, you can obviously easily solve it now, right? You can simply put the value 3 in this equation that you have simplified. Now you might say, why do I want to put it? Because I just show you, if you put it after substituting the value of 3, you'll get 0, because that was happening. Because if you put the value of root in the quadratic equation, you get 0. Now if you put 0, notice that you have a simple equation out here which you can solve and find the value of k. And once you can find out the value of k, you can find the product of roots, and hence statement 1 is sufficient. Is this part clear, guys? I've tried to explain it as elaborately as possible for everyone. Those of you knew it well and good, but I hope this was helpful. You understood how to approach these kind of things. And this is again a fairly common kind of a statement you would see in the quadratic equations. X minus 3 is one of the factors, and so on and so forth. So if you see x minus 3 is a factor, x minus 7 is a factor, just equate to 0, find the root, place it in the equation, find the value of the variable. Okay. So the answer would be either A or D. Now the second statement obviously is very easy. The sum of the roots is 13 by 6. We already know sum of roots is minus b by a. Somebody pointed out, we have been taught this in school a long time back. C by a, c by a minus b by a. So you know b is 5 minus k, a is 6. Substitute it. The value 13 by 6 is given. Place it. Equate these two things. Once you do so, you'll be able to find out the value of k. If you can find out the value of k, then you'll be able to find out the product of roots. Okay, so I hope this is perfectly. And somebody's asking just one question: do we actually need to put the value since we know? No, you don't need to. See, I'm doing this just to show you. Please keep this in mind. There are certain things which I just want to make it very clear in front of you so that it's very clear. That's all, nothing else. If the moment that you see, hey, I can get the answer by substituting it, you should stop. It's a data sufficiency question. They're not asking you the answer. Okay, I hope this is clear, guys. That you, the moment that you see, like in this case, I would not have done all these things. I wouldn't do it. I know this is equal to this. I already know, so I'll simply write and finish it. I'm not going to do these steps in the exam, but this is just to show it to you that you will get the answer. Okay. So guys, in this question, once again, those of you marked the answer as A, those of you marked the answer as B, you missed out on this part, how to simplify and use the factors information. Maybe you might have even simplified it, but you still do not know how to use the factor information. I hope this was useful. Those of you who marked A, some part of it is clear. You understand certain things, okay, but you should have marked D as your answer. So your concepts, visualization, simplification skills are good, but still not up to the mark. Those of you marked B, you were not able to visualize the part that x minus 3 is the root, and it's because obviously some of you don't know it. It's a very specific thing, but I hope after this you should be able to do it. Those of you marked B, well and good, congratulations, you know this stuff, which is good. But I hope you understand now that a question becomes difficult or easy depending on whether you know the concept or not. If you know the concept, think about it. Was it was it a difficult question? It wasn't, right? You could have easily solved it. You would have simply inferred, hey, x is equal to 3, sufficient. Sum of roots is given. We'll get k, sufficient. 2 minutes, you'll get the answer. Okay, so I hope this was helpful, guys. And here now we move. I know people are doing. Daksh doesn't like algebra, but unfortunately, there are a lot of good things that you can learn in algebra. If you're able to solve in 70 seconds, that's really good, guy. That's really good, Kalyan. So here's a question. Again, the next question number 4 and 5, I've specifically chosen to help you learn a few things about modulus. Some quick tips and tricks. Somebody was asking me, can you tell me some easy ways to find the range and all those stuff. Now I'm going to show you how you can do those in the next 2 questions. Okay. So try this question again, guys. You have 2.5 minutes. Sarvam, possible is anything, but the point is it won't be possible to do it in 2 minutes. That's the problem. You won't be able to do it in 2 minutes. The idea is to get it done in 2 minutes. And the purpose of giving this question was to tell you that if you have good conceptual knowledge, then you will be able to definitely do it in 2 minutes. Without knowing minus b by a c by, it's very difficult. Guys, just hold on. Don't post your answers yet. Please, I'll tell you when to post it. There's still ample amount of time. Just wait for some time. Those who have posted it, that's okay. But would request you to wait. Asanul, I unfortunately didn't bring any geometry questions today. I have some number properties algebra, but I can bring some in the next session whenever we have it. Okay, I can show you a lot of geometry. In fact, I like geometry a lot. There is one question in it on triangles. If you want, I can do that after. I think it's a sixth question today. So that's just one of them. Okay, guys, I think I have given you enough time. Those of you are done can start posting your answers. Okay, I'm guessing most of you will mark C or E. I have a few responses, but I feel these are the two. These two will be the main contenders. C, E. That's just some guess. That's. I'm just trying to show you how we question makers think. Yes says, I hope it's E this time. I hope so too. I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'll just discuss and you'll get to gradually know what the answer is. Okay, Amir says C, Daksh E, Ayush says E. Would this be 7 level Ayush again? If you know how to solve modulus, especially inequality ones, then this is like 45 seconds at the max, frankly speaking. If you don't know it, then you'll have to put values, try it out. May take some time, but you should ideally be able to do it if you're good with putting values also. But I would not suggest it. Sahil has posted the range. Well and good. Okay, so let me very quickly discuss this. I'll tell you the reason behind giving this question is just to tell you that if you want to solve such questions very quickly, it's good that if you know how to find out the range of these inequalities. Now, how many of you know how to solve this? How many of you know how to do how to find out this mod of a is less than mod of x is less than a, and mod of x is greater than? How many of you know how to basically find these ranges directly without doing anything? How many of you know that? If you know it, please please say yes. If you don't, then it's okay, totally okay. Come on, guys. Some responses. Dipanjan says that he knows it. Good. What about the others? Okay, I can see a lot of yeses, a few no's. Okay, so this is based, guys, on this only, whether you know this or not. I'm going to very quickly, just take 30 to 45 seconds to discuss this. Okay, just to help you explain what you need to do. Now, if you have given mod of x is less than something, like mod of x is less than 3, I'm taking a value to help you explain and just visualize it quickly. Don't waste time in thinking what could be the range of x, okay? Simply write down the range would be -3 to 3, between -3 and 3, that's all. So if it's given mod of x is less than a, simply we figure out that the range would be between a and a. That's all. Minus a to a. That's it. Don't waste time. Similarly, if it's given mod of x is greater than 5, the range would simply x is greater than 5, x is less than -5. It's not going to change whatever be the value. Okay. So if you have mod of x greater than a, simply say x is greater than a, x is less than -a. That's all. Now, even if I get something like this, where you have, say, instead of mod x, you have mod of something less than something, this is nothing different, guys. Keep this in mind. You have a certain term inside. It's like something is less than a. Now, what have I told you? If something is less than a, you write it as minus a to a, right? So you do that only. You say minus a to a. In this case, I'll say that something is 2x plus 3. 2x plus 3 is between minus 4 to 4. That's all you will say. And then obviously you need to simplify it and find the range of x. Okay, so if you know this, guys, you will be able to solve this question within a minute. If you don't know it, I've seen people making mistakes in this by marking the answer as, again, I'm not going to tell the answer yet. I hope this part is correct. Now, when I'm analyzing the statement, the question simply says is x greater than y. I don't have any more information. So I'll simply assume they are real numbers, as I've already told you. If you don't know anything, just assume they are real numbers. Very important. Okay. Now, when I'm analyzing the statement, what I would do is I look at the first statement. I'll say, hey, this is just telling me about x. Let me check it. Let me not solve it now. I'll look at the second statement. Okay, I'll say, hey, this will give me just the range of y. But I need to find out whether x is greater than y. So I need to know both of them. I won't be able to get it. So let me check it again. Okay, so that will save some time. Okay, but unfortunately, I know whatever time I save, I'll have to again utilize it while solving it. So now I know how to do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the formula that I just told you. So I see that it's less than 2, and I can see this is less than 6. So I'll take the first one. Less than 2 means it is less than between minus 2 and 2. Okay, I want the range of x. So what I'll do is I'll subtract minus 1 all sides, as you can see here, and find the range of x. I think Sahil pointed out this range, which was good. And I'll draw it. And I always draw it, guys. Believe me, it helps in visualizing. Same goes for the second one. It's less than 6. Once again, I will write the range. As you can see here, remove 8 from all sides and get the range of 5. And I will draw that also. Okay. Now, those of you are marked, see, you're not observing the diagram properly, or you did not draw the diagram in either of these two cases, because you'll notice that there is some overlap between x and y. Okay, now if there is some overlap between x and y, then in that overlap, anything is possible. It's possible that x could be equal to y, maybe this value, they might turn out to be the same. It could be happen that x is this, y is this, so x would be greater than y. It could be the opposite also, that x is this, y is here. So anything is possible when they have a common range. Anything is possible in this range. Could be equal to, could be greater than, could be less than. Okay, the moment you see that, you should mark your answer as C, mark your answer as E. But if you want, you can also look at the range that is not common. In the range that is not common, in this case is obviously the part that is left. In this case, obviously the values are of x is greater than y. It's greater. But now you can see there are a number of cases possible. It could be greater, it could be equal, it could be less. And yes, it's a 7th level question, guys. Just to say it one time only, all questions that I'm discussing are 7th level. If you're finding it easy, it's because you know how to do it. Okay. So I hope you understand that you need to draw it. If you haven't drawn it, you might end up making a mistake. You might end up marking the answer as C. So what is the learning from this question? The learning that you need to take away is that if you know the exact way of finding the range, like mod of x is something less than a, mod of x is greater than a, you'll be able to find out the range very quickly. The second thing is that if you're not drawing a diagram, I can guarantee you, if you're not making a mistake today, you will make a mistake someday. I don't want that, but you will, because you may end up missing cases because you're not being able to see what is happening. Okay, so those of you who marked your answer as C, you're not visualizing properly. Those who have got the answer as E, you did everything perfectly, which is great, guys. Absolutely good. So I hope the conceptual learning was very good. You learned something new today about modulus x, and you also will take away this learning that drawing the diagram is important. You might feel lazy not to do it, but please, I request you do it. Okay, those of you who found it easy, good. Okay. Here's another question, guys, based on both quadratic inequality and modulus. Let's do one thing, guys. Let's skip this. We have a little less time, so I want to do another question. Somebody's asking about. Let's try this one. Let's try this one, guys. Once. Let's try a geometry question. Yes, Abhishek. I know a lot of people use plugging in values to solve the question, but there are certain questions in which it makes sense to do it. And Nish, if you want to know where should we plug values, how should we plug values, I would strongly suggest attend our session on number properties. We do a live session on, not on YouTube, but in general also. One is going to happen either next week or the next to next week. Attend that, where there I actually show you very clearly when to put values, how to put values, when to not put values. Everything is discussed very clearly. Okay. So here's a geometry question. Again, conceptual clarity is needed. And there's another simple learning out here. So this is the last question for the day, guys. Sahil is asking, what is the weightage? You can expect 3 to 4 questions at least on geometry, if not more, but you'll have at least 4. Coordinate, definitely. Yes, I sound like I can feel you. It will be really hard to draw a diagram on whiteboard. Guys, those who are getting the answer, I would say, wait. Let's give people time. Let's take another 1 minute, please. Let them solve it. Okay. After 1 minute, start posting your answer. So Avinash has said, it's okay if you have posted it, but rest of you, please just pause for a minute. Don't post your answers. Okay, nobody's listening. Wait, guys, wait. I'll tell you when to post your answers. That's totally okay, but Shashank, I'll take these questions, guys. After this question, if you have any question related to what should you prepare, how should you prepare, what should be the right sequence, I'm going to discuss all of that just after this question. So focus on this. Just another 10 seconds, guys. Then you can start posting your answers, and then I can discuss what you want, what you need to do, okay, and how you need to prepare. Don't worry. Okay, guys. I think there's enough time. You can start posting your answers, and then we are going to start our discussion. Okay. Okay, I can see a few E, B, C, D. Oh my God. Okay, so this is all over the place, I would say, guys. I can see almost all answers. I can see B, C, E. Thankfully, I did not see any A's. Has anyone posted an A? No, thankfully did not. Okay. Okay, most of you are saying C, and there are a few E's and B's also. Again, I would say, guys, this is a question which requires 2 very important skills. One is obviously how well can you write all the cases down. Conceptual skills, conceptual knowledge is obviously important. That's number 1. Number 2 is whether you can use that concept to write down all the possible cases to find out the answer. So, as usual, I'll jot down the constraint very quickly. Number 1, the triangle is obtuse. Second information, 2 sides are 5 and 8. Third important thing given is the length of the third side is an integer. So I write down, make sure I don't miss anything. Everything is here or on the paper. Now, I've been asked how many distinct triangles can be formed. Now you should ask yourself, okay, I need to find distinct triangles. I know 2 sides. So obviously to find out the distinct triangles, they are indirectly asking me find out the value of the third side. So if I know what are the possible values of the third side, obviously they will help me form a triangle, right? So I need to find out the third side. Okay, that's easy. So how do you define, how do you solve this question? So what I basically do is to help me visualize, and that's my approach, guys, up to you if you want to use it. I basically name them. It's easy for me to visualize and solve questions, make equations. So I say, okay, let me assume ABC to be a triangle, and AB, I have just, this is random, AB has 5, BC has 8, and I've just written that AC is what I need to find. Now, what concept should I use to solve this question? That is what I want to understand. Can anyone tell me what are you using to solve this question? Okay, Swapnil says obtuse. Anyone else? What are you using to solve this question? Which concept are you going to use? what formula are you going to use to solve the question? Very quickly, guys. Okay, Kalyan says three side. Okay, what do I mean by three side? Largest angle will correspond to the largest side. Different summons. Okay, Abhishek says, okay, basic is third side greater than sum of two. Okay, so I have got the answer. It's broken down into two parts. One of you only has said it correctly, have pointed out both the points. So obviously you have to use the side properties. That's no mystery here. But which side property? One property that you need to use is that to form a triangle, sum of two sides is greater than the third side. So you have to use this because that will help you figure out whether you can form a triangle or not. But very importantly, you need to also understand that there's an obtuse angle triangle. So in obtuse angle triangle, the square of the greatest side, whatever the greatest side is, should be greater than sum of the squares of the other two sides. Okay, so these are the two properties that you need to use, both of them, guys, to get the answer. Now, those of you who use just the first property, just the first one, you'll make a mistake. You'll end up making a mistake. Okay, now the next important question: which one is the greatest? Is it BC or is it AC? Anyone? This will decide whether you have solved the question correctly or not, mostly. Which side is the greatest? Is it BC or is it AC? Anyone? Okay, I can see AC, BC. Sahil says both can be greater. Malik, both, which is good, guys. That is what I was looking for. If you focus on only one side, either BC or AC, you are going to make a mistake. Nothing has been given which side is the greatest side. I know the AB is 5, okay, but I don't know anything about AC. So it's possible that AC could be the greatest to form the obtuse angle triangle, or it's possible that BC could be the greatest, okay, and AC would lie somewhere less than 8. So you have to consider both the cases. That's what I was talking about. If you don't know both these cases, if you only assume AC or only assume BC, you're going to make a mistake. So you need to take two cases. Okay. But before taking two cases, as I told you, the first rule is simply sum of two sides is greater than the third side. So that can help you find out the range of AC. So what you can do is you can write sum of two sides, which is 8 plus 5 is greater than AC. So that would tell you that AC is less than 13, number one. You can also find out the lower point. You can write 5 plus AC is greater than 8. Sum of two sides, 5, AC, these two sides should be greater than 8. That will tell you the lower point. So AC is greater than 3 and AC is less than 13. So now you know that the range of AC is 3 to 13. Okay, now here is that if you forget about the obtuse angle triangle, there's a chance of mistake that you might think, okay, 4, 5, 6, these are the only values of AC, so there are 9 values. So those of you who marked the answer as D, you completely forgot about the obtuse angle triangle property, or maybe you don't know. That's also possible. If that is the case, that's totally okay. But if you know it and if you've forgotten it or you not use it, then you really need to learn how to apply it. Okay, so this is a mistake that you might make. This is just one part which gives you the range, 3 to 13. Keep that in mind. Now you need to make cases. First case is BC is the largest side. If BC is the largest side, then that means the largest side square should be greater than 5 square plus AC square, the remaining two side square. It should be greater. This would give you the range of AC. If you notice, AC square is less than 39. What does that mean? Less than 39. And keep in mind, AC is an integer. Okay. So what I can say is that AC will be less than equal to 6. The values would be 6, 7, 8, whatever it has to be. Okay, here also some of you might make a mistake. You might just think, okay, AC is less than equal to 6. Let me take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you might get lucky and mark the answer as 6, because 6 is the correct answer. But that would just be a good mistake. But the idea is you found AC is less than equal to 6. From the previous slide, in the previous slide, I showed you that the range of AC is this. Okay, this is the main range. Okay, so you can combine and say that, okay, AC is greater than 3 and AC is less than equal to 6. And from here, you can say the values can be 4, 5, 6. I hope this is clear, guys. I know I've explained it elaborately in the exam. You have to do it quickly, but this is how you need to do it. So if BC is the largest side, then you'll say that there are 3 possible triangles that can be made. Okay. But don't mark the answer as A. Thankfully, nobody did, which is very good. You have to consider the other case also when AC is the largest side. If AC is the largest side, then in that case, AC square would be 8 square plus 5 square. The other two sides have square. Now, again, it's an integer. So obviously, AC has to be greater than equal to 10. Okay. And that would mean And again, you might end up marking E, thinking, hey, AC square is greater than equal to 10. It is the largest side, so infinite values possible. So those of you marked E might have done this mistake. And notice how these options have been created. These have been created keeping in mind the kind of mistakes that you'll make. So make sure that every trap is set. Okay, but if you are methodical, if you remember that I need to use both the rules, if you remember this, then you'll never make a mistake. From this, you're getting one range. You already know AC is between 3 to 13, which is a general rule for the triangle to be formed. From here, you can figure out that AC should be greater than or equal to 10, less than 13, only 3 values possible, so 3 possible triangles. Thus, the total triangles that can be formed is 6, and the correct answer is C. Okay, so I hope guys this is clear. This question basically was targeted to tell you that half-baked knowledge or incomplete knowledge can cause a problem. You will, if you know just the properties of triangle but not of obtuse triangle, you'll end up making a mistake. You'll end up marking the wrong answer. Okay, and also obviously you need to learn to make cases. Don't assume. Here also a lot of people assumed AC to be the largest or BC to be the largest. Don't do that. Solve with an open mind, please. Don't assume anything. That is one of the biggest mistake people make. Okay. Yes, it is an obtuse triangle. So in Kalyan, an obtuse triangle, one of the side should be the greatest, right? The rest can be equal. Isosceles obtuse triangle. What's the problem? It's fine, but as long as it's obtuse. Okay, it could be isosceles, but it's an obtuse triangle. It's still obtuse angle triangle. Even if it is an isosceles, it does not matter. My point is I need to see whether it's obtuse or not. Okay, so I hope guys this is clear. There are two more questions here, but because of the lack of time, I'm just going to move on to the last slide, which basically talks. A lot of you are asking about whether what I do, we take online classes or not. So let me go just to the last slide. Really sorry, guys. One sec. Let me share my screen once again, very quickly. Just one sec, guys. Guys, what I want to say here is that I hope through this session you have understood that what you really need to do is solve questions methodically. Okay, if you don't do that, then there's a high chance that you will make a mistake. Conceptual knowledge can take you only at one place. You need to really learn how to solve a question from all point of view. You have to stop assuming things. All these questions, again, guys, were 7-level questions. If you're able to do it well and good, if not, I hope you understood how you need to solve these. Okay, so guys, some of you were asking about the some general questions about the sequence of preparation of GMAT. Let me very quickly talk about that. See, what I believe is that if you want to start your preparation for Quant, don't do that in a general way, like a lot of people tell you to do it. Okay, a lot of people say that you start with number properties, complete all number properties, start with algebra, complete all of algebra. Don't do that. Start with certain things which will actually help you in the in solving all the questions in a progressive manner. So what do I mean by that? This might sound vague. So let me give you an example. Start off. Okay, let me just clear this very obtuse. I can see a lot of questions on obtuse angle things. So I just want to clear this very quickly. Guys, obtuse, a right angle, let me give you an example. An isosceles right angle triangle is also a right angle triangle, right? Because it has a 90 degree in it. In the same way, if an obtuse angle triangle, if one of the angle is greater than 90, it does not matter what the two other sides are, as long as one of them satisfies the condition of making it an obtuse angle triangle. Okay, so even if it becomes an isosceles, that's not a problem, because it is still it has the inherent property of being an obtuse angle triangle. So I hope this clears your doubt. You just cannot say, for example, an isosceles right angle triangle is not a right angle triangle. Okay, and the question never said I'm looking for scalar. Okay, I just said I want different triangles. The triangles could be isosceles, who cares? Nowhere was it mentioned that it has to be scalar. Okay, so I hope this clears the confusion. And let me go back to Shashank's question. So Shashank, what I would say is that if you're starting a preparation, what you really need to do is number one, start with the basic things. Like first of all, learn things like different classification of numbers. Okay, start with things like understanding fractions and decimals. If you're good with these, well and good. But then once you've understood these classification of numbers, fractions and decimals, those kind of things, because they are used everywhere, then I would suggest move on to things like linear equations, quadratic equations, exponents. Now, why am I asking you to do that? I'm asking you to do that is because, guys, those are the things that is used almost everywhere. As you can see, I was solving a geometry question, but I was still using inequality. I was still using a quadratic equation, right? So learning these things make sense first. Okay. So start by learning quadratic exponents, linear equations, so that equation part is clear. Then I would say don't complete the inequality part. Don't do that in one go. You have learned what are equations, right? Also try and learn things like percentages, ratios, and a little bit of unitary method. Because again, these are things that you're going to use across everywhere in number properties, algebra, remaining topics. Once you have solidified these understandings of quadratic linear equations, ratios, percentages, then only you start your preparation journey of the remaining topics. So you can start with number properties. You can start off by even odd, primes, then LCM, GCD. This is the way you progress and learn. Okay, don't go about completing one thing fully. I'll give you an example why you should not do it. Say, for example, you start with number properties, okay, and you complete or you start with prime numbers. Okay, in prime numbers, you use a lot of exponents. Okay, and if you don't know how to solve exponents, you'll falter in primes. Now, it's not your fault that you're faltering in primes because you don't know exponents, right? So it makes sense to follow those basics. Now, guys, as far as the source is concerned, I would suggest, again, I know I'm from GMAT Quiz, but I would suggest try GMAT Quiz once. The way I'm teaching, the methodology that I'm teaching, the kind of mistakes that you usually make that I'm teaching, it has all been inculcated in the course. You can try a free trial. You can go to gmatwiz.com, okay? You can go and try a free trial. I'm just typing it down, the email ID once very quickly. For those of you who haven't tried it out, just go. Okay. And let me see. Just one sec. I'll ask the admin to post it. Okay. I don't know, for some weird reason. Okay. Can you see, guys, my post? I don't know whether you're able to see it or not. Uh, But anyways, so I was saying, guys, you can go there and you can see it. So if you're looking for good questions, GMAT has it. If you're looking for the right sequence, in the free trial, I actually show you, I have access to some part of the free trial, but you're also able to see how we have designed the course. Okay, so that way you'll be able to understand what is the right sequence of learning it. Okay, let me take a few more questions very quickly. Let me see what else is there. Will I be able to clear all these concepts just solving all answers in the OG? Daksh, unfortunately, see, OG contains only easy and medium questions, a few hard questions. But if your concepts are not clear and if you don't jump directly into OG, which a lot of people suggest is a wrong method. I'm not saying buy my course. I'm saying just start learning from somewhere first. Learn the concepts first. Be it from any way that you want, if you want to do well. But learn concepts, then apply them on OG. If you're thinking I'll use OG, solve the question, somehow do well in it, not gonna happen. Believe me. Okay, Akuma is asking, out of 31 questions, how many should we get correct to obtain a decent score? Like questions, because questions like the latter would take 3 minutes, not two. Here, Akuma, see, the reason I'm doing this session, why am I doing this session? To tell you that these questions can be done in three. If you have this mental block that no, I cannot do it, then you won't be able to. The good part about GMAT is that they ask questions which are based on some few concepts only. Okay, the concepts are not going to change. It's not like a exam. Those of you from India might know, like CAT or all those kind of things, right? Where they ask anything under the sun. That's not going to happen. In GMAT, if you learn, like, let's talk about geometry. If they teach you 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90 triangle, they're going to test you only on that, nothing else. That's the best part about it. So learn the various ways of the different kind of questions that GMAT asks. What kind of traps do they set? They're limited in nature, I'm telling you. And develop the right methodology to solve the question. You will do well. And Akuma, a decent score, you have to tell me what decent score are you talking about. Then only I can, and again, it's not easy to guess, frankly speaking. Okay, where to learn basics of functions. Well, there's no particular source as such. If you're looking for a free source, you'll have to look at GMAT Club. I would say there are a lot of free resources, articles there where you can learn functions. Paid resources, if you want, if you're willing to pay, you can try GMAT Viz. We have elaborately discussed it. But if you're looking for just one concept, then I would suggest try GMAT Club and look at for there's some good articles on functions. Okay. Uh, Okay, Dolly is saying out of the 5 questions in the session, I could solve only 2 correctly. I'm in the last stage of the preparation before my GMAT. The skill of inference was the problem in these questions. How to improve? See, Dolly, first thing first, these questions are all difficult questions. Okay, I don't know what your target score is, but if you're targeting 4950, then yes, ideally you should be able to do at least 3 to 4 correct. As far as skill of inference is concerned, see, what did I do? I wasn't doing anything different. I was asking questions. I was asking questions to myself every time, whatever, before doing any step. So before going to solving the question, I was asking what are these variables for? Why do I need it? How they can help me solve the question? Those kind of things. What concept should I use? Now, this will require practice. It cannot happen overnight. I'm being very frank here. You would need to practice 30, 40, 50 questions. Keep on applying this again and again and again and again. And if you do so, you'll definitely be able to improve, believe me. But you have to do it consistently. Okay. Uh, okay, let me see if there are any other questions. There are quite a few. Okay, I'm able to touch 49 in quant, but reaching 50 is becoming difficult. What kind of question should I focus on? See, Avinash, as I told you, look at 7 level questions. You can filter them from there and try to look at most of the official questions of the 7 level questions and practice those. That is what you need to do. But don't see, practice. People abuse this thing when I say practice. They think practice will do everything. Don't do that. Make an error log. Write down why are you making a mistake. Write down why are you taking time. And remember those things. If you're taking time because you forgot the concept, that means you need to go back and learn the concepts. If you got the question wrong because as people miss things like they don't know if it's an integer or a fraction, those kind of things, then you know these are the kind of mistake that you make. Next time when you solve the question, try to question yourself. There is no special magic trick, guys. I have to tell you this. This has to be a methodical way to do it. Okay, if you do that, you will be able to improve. And as I said that, yes, obviously you need to focus on traps. Don't look at a DS question. The people have the tendency of solving DS questions very quickly. I've seen people solving a hard, difficult question in 60 seconds. They're not even analyzing it. They're not even realizing that they're just answering it very quickly. Don't do that. Spend time, read each statement. Then you will be able to do it. Ayush is asking how to remember this for the next few months while learning multiple stuff. For example, I've done number properties, but now that I've moved, it's basically what I usually suggest my students is, Ayush, that if you complete something, if you don't practice, you'll forget. Even I'll forget. If I leave quant for say 6 months, I'll forget a lot of concepts. So it's nothing special about me or you. What you need to do is you need to take weekly quizzes. You need to try and take say 15 questions in a week or 20 questions in a week on those topics that you've covered before. So take a mix of questions. So once you're done with number properties and you say you're going to say algebra, make sure that you start practicing number properties questions weekly. Once you're done with algebra, then mix both algebra and geometry together. Take a quiz of 20, mix them. So if you're forgetting something, what will happen is that you will be able to solve those questions properly. You'll remember those concepts, and whatever you're forgetting, you'll be able to revise them then and there, instead of realizing after 3 months, hey, I've forgotten everything. That's not going to happen. Okay, how to focus on learning concepts well to understand. Uh, my accuracy with quant is 65% to score 49. Jaideep, see, 65% accuracy is not bad, but I understand it's an adaptive quiz, guys. In that, accuracy is just plays a very small role. It plays a role, but it also you need to understand that where are you getting those 35% questions wrong? Are you getting those 35% questions wrong in the starting of the session, in the starting of the exam, or in the middle, or in the last? Those things will matter. Okay, but believe me, don't ask these kind of questions. It's very difficult to predict. If I say, hey, out of 31 get 25 correct, you'll get Q49, you will say, okay, I need to get 25 correct. But if you get those first 6 wrong in the first 6 only, even if you get 25 correct, believe me, you won't get a good score. Okay. Avinash, I would say you're asking me, can you suggest one single stop resource for Touch Q5051? I would suggest try GMAT once. If you like the session, the way I was teaching, believe me, this is the way I've explained everything. Detail. It's very exhaustive in nature. Everything has been covered, from the tips, tricks, DS traps, whatever you name it, everything has been done. There are a lot of video solutions out there where I clearly explain everything. I don't leave anything to chance, frankly speaking. So believe me, if you're looking for a one-stop solution, that is what I'm going to recommend. Try out a free trial. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's totally fine. But if you try out free trial, I'm sure you'll understand that the way I'm teaching you now is the way I teach in the course also. Okay. Uh, Okay, do we need to get all 31 correct for Q51? Sahil, unfortunately, what I'm seeing nowadays is that you need to get all correct to get Q51. Maybe one mistake, I don't know, but uh, if you make two mistakes, that I know that making two mistakes is getting you Q50 nowadays. So it again depends where you're making a mistake, but to be on the safe side, you need to get all correct nowadays to get a Q51. Okay. Uh, I really struggle with the divisibility and factors. See, you struggle with divisibility and factors, then I would suggest go through the video lessons of Karan. Basically, again, I don't know what resource are you using, but I would suggest go through the lessons where they actually teach you what is factors, how do you prime factorize those things. So you need to go to a source which teaches you things from basic. A lot of people, a lot of courses, or again, a lot of concepts that are taught here and there start from a certain level. If you don't have that level, you'll keep on making mistake. So look for a one-stop source that can help you with that. Okay, how many questions would you recommend to practice on a certain topic to get comfortable with 700 level? It varies from person to person. Okay, what I believe is the moment that you start getting an accuracy of say 70% or 80%, you should stop. You should stop, move on to the next topic. Don't waste time. Okay, if you're looking at 700 level question, if you're getting an accuracy of 60-70%, that's also fine. On an average, if it's a 75 plus, it's good. Again, I'm taking the baseline based on the course of GMAT Wiz and most of the good question sources. If you have 75%, it's a decent core. Move on to the next topic because there will be time to fine tune it. Okay. Where can I find questions on setup? Ayush, I'm not sure how to answer that. Shashank, I won't want to comment on that. Can you please write down the name of your website? Sure, can you let me just put it in? Abhijit, can you do that? It's, let's see. I'm not, let me try it out. If it's not happening, I've just written the name. Just try gmatwiz.com. You should be able to get it. Unfortunately, I don't know why I'm not being able to post a link, but all you need to do is just try gmatwiz.com and you should be able to access it. Okay. gmatwiz.com. Refer to anything else, guys. If not, then I would end the session. I don't see any other questions. Daksh is GMAT I've just posted the name on the chat. You can see it. Okay. It's gmatwhiz.com. Okay. If there are no more questions, okay, there's one more question to balance with practice and working on mistakes. How many questions? See, Jaydeep, again, I told you, it varies from person to person. What I believe is inconsistency. So I would say take 15 questions per week is enough, but take the right mix. Okay. So if you're making mistakes in certain topics, make sure that you add them when you're taking the quiz. Okay. That's how it is advisable to start with quant and verbal parallel. First complete quant and then move to verbal. Shashank, it depends on the time. Say if you are free the whole day and you have about 8 hours every day, then I would say split it because studying 8 hours, one per proper only one topic is exhausting. But say if you have say 20 hours a week, okay, then I would say take just one topic because in those 20 hours, even if you break it down into 10 hours or 12 hours, it doesn't give you a good feeling and you won't even see either of the two things getting completed properly. Sometimes people lose motivation also. Okay, so it makes sense depending on the time. If you have 40 hours a week, do both of them, not a problem. 20 hours. If you have just 20 hours, 25 hours, I would suggest take one, complete it fully, and then move on to the next one. See, I would summarize by saying this, that guys, as a next step, what you really need to do is figure out where are you going wrong. If you're starting a preparation, start from one source, the source that you feel good. If you want, try out free trials of a few courses if you want to see what fits for you. Okay, and go by the kind of the way it's being taught, because everyone has their own way of learning things. So go through it. If you're starting a preparation, go through a few courses, buy one and learn from one of them only. Okay, don't try 10 different resources. Don't try from directly from official guide. That would be my suggestion. Okay. That's one of the suggestions. Those of you who are already preparing, okay, who are already doing are in the later stages of their preparation, have already done some preparation and just looking for fine tuning, then try and figure out whatever you have done so far. Go back, look at the question that you were getting wrong, try and figure out why were you getting them wrong, and then focus only those areas, only on those areas. Prepare a proper strategy. Okay, this is my error log. This clearly shows me where I'm not doing well. Okay, and then focus, and then you should ideally be able to do well in it. Okay, I don't see another question. GMAT test, yes, it's different from GMAT Wiz, and the Wiz has just one Z, not two Z. So GMAT Okay, Avinash, I had a Q50 in Quant. I made two mistakes, so I know really well what happens if you make two mistakes. Earlier, you used to get a Q51 even with two mistakes, but now, unfortunately, you don't. Yes, GMAT Wiz is good for verbal, but again, don't take my word for it. I'm telling you, go register on GMAT Wiz, try out the free trial. If you want to talk to us, please feel free to talk to us. I'm just posting the. Uh, just one sec, guys. I'll type it down. Okay, I've added the email ID of our support team. Okay, just write to us. Just write to us if you want to get on a call, talk to us, figure out your strategy. If you're looking for courses, if you want to talk more about, somebody was asking for discount codes or whatever. If you want to talk about that, if you want to look at a course, know more about it. I've just posted my support ID. And you can even write to us at support@gmatwiz.com. I don't know why my chat is unfortunately not coming up. Okay, so write to us support@gmatwiz.com, and we'll try to help you as much as possible. This video will be available on this particular link only on YouTube. You can come and see it. Okay. Omar, that's a very good question you asked. How long is the GMAT prep online course? See, our course is adaptive in nature. That's the best part about it. So say you're preparing, you have already prepared something before. If you take a course, if you knew a few things, the course will adapt in such a way that you will spend less time. So if you're somebody you're starting new, and if you need more time to prepare, then the course will adapt accordingly. So for example, you have learned a concept, you took a quiz, but you did not do well. So we provide additional material automatically. These are all based on the intelligence that we have created, and they uh, give you those materials that are needed, the concepts that are needed to help you do well. So to answer your question, it depends on the ability of the student. If you're somebody who's starting new, on an average, it will take you, depending on quant and verbal, different timing on what your strength is. Okay, but there's not a fixed time. Unlike other courses which are fixed, the 200 hours or 300 hours of courses there, you have to do everything. Ours is not like that. There are diagnostics in the quant. You take the diagnostic. If you do well in the diagnostics, we automatically remove the videos that you don't need to watch. So you'll save time there. Okay, so guys, that's about it. I think I've taken a lot of time now. If you have any questions, once again, write to us at support@gmatwiz.com, and we'll be more than happy to help you out. Okay. Okay then, guys, let me stop share and end the session.